Hey, it's TotK, and after about 2.5 months since starting this file, I have finally completed 100%ing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Found all the Koroks, got all the medals for various things like defeating the monsters and finding the wells. I even got every single chest in the world, even though those aren't part of completion, just because I wanted to have a totally clean tracker map that I was using, since trying to 100% Tears of the Kingdom without using some kind of tracker resource like the one from Zelda Dungeon would be incredibly unfun and tedious. So then, after doing all of this and getting such meaningful rewards as Hestu's gift, was all of this worth it? The short answer, yeah, it actually kind of was worth it. So I'm going to tell about why it was worth it for me and why it might not be worth it for some other people. So what the pros and cons of trying to 100% Tears of the Kingdom is. To preface this, I'm someone who normally does not go really hard on 100% in games. Usually if there's something that's just a menial task that doesn't offer any meaningful reward, I will not do it. There's just no point in doing it. I just keep to things that have actual rewards to them or are story related. So normally I wouldn't be doing all of this useless work like finding Korok seeds. And that's also why I did it for my second file, because doing 100% on your first file, first time playing this, that would be really, really unfun, I imagine. Not knowing where everything is already, just, yeah, so doing this on a second file was pretty much a necessity. So then what is the main reason that it was worth it? Well, even though the rewards themselves are meaningless, it's the actual experience of doing it that was the fun part. So, even though the Korok seeds are useless after the first 100 or so to unlock inventory slots, they bring you to all kinds of different places. This goes for all the different aspects of completion, not just Koroks, but just in general. Going for 100% completion means you're going to visit every little corner that you might overlook normally. Like, underneath the bridges, just about every bridge has a Korok seed under it. Normally you wouldn't have any reason to look under these bridges, but if you're going for 100% completion looking for all the chests and Korok seeds, you're going to go under these bridges. Which may not seem like it matters, but since the game is so heavily based around exploration, the exploration is the actual reward of going for the completion, not the stuff that you get from doing it, but it's just the act of doing it brings you to all kinds of things that you want to see, or you might not know that you wanted to see. Like this big tree trunk, for example. Normally you'd have no reason to actually go through this since you could just climb up the mountain over there, and you would just completely avoid going through this cool tree trunk. So stuff like this is the main reason for doing 100%, is that it will bring you to all kinds of things you wouldn't have seen otherwise. And this was the same for Breath of the Wild, but I would say, having done this in Breath of the Wild too, it is significantly more worth it in Tears of the Kingdom for a few reasons. The main ones being, in Breath of the Wild, it was way, way more tedious. In Breath of the Wild, it was like 90% Korok seeds for 100%. There was very little else to do besides finding Korok seeds. In Tears of the Kingdom, for one thing, there's a lot less Korok seeds. I think 100 of the Korok puzzles, somewhere around that, are the doubled up ones. So you have 100 less Korok seeds than you did to find in Breath of the Wild, I think. On top of that, they're more spread out too. They're less dense. So it's because you have a lot of them split between the sky, and because you have a lot less of them in general, that means you're not finding another Korok every 5 steps, which made it so annoying in Breath of the Wild. I would say in Breath of the Wild, it was very debatable on if 100% was worth it, while I can very cleanly say that it is worth it in Tears of the Kingdom. And on top of that, with just the Korok seeds being a lot better in Tears of the Kingdom, some of the puzzles are also a lot easier. The puzzles in Breath of the Wild, a lot of them were really tedious. All the Korok puzzles are pretty clear and quick to do in Tears of the Kingdom. You don't have a lot of really annoying ones, and some of them feel more rewarding even though they're easier. Like the metal block puzzles. figuring out the shape to put the metal block puzzles in Tears of the Kingdom is so much better than just the way Breath of the Wild had it, where most of the time it was a single block, I think. I don't remember. I feel like it was usually just a single block and you had to find one single spot to put that single block, or it was just a few blocks, but it was always matching in Breath of the Wild, so it made it a lot more annoying to figure out where to move things to, and you also had to find the blocks most of the time, and they were not just right next to where you had to put them, so that made it a lot more tedious. In Tears of the Kingdom, the block puzzles, it's more of an actual puzzle, I would say, since you just have to figure out where to place it, what direction to place it, so there's a little more thought, but less work. And that's just one example. In general, all the Korok puzzles in Tears of the Kingdom are a lot more thoughtful, but quicker to do. And then you have all the other stuff besides Korok puzzles, because there is so many other things to do in Tears of the Kingdom compared to Breath of the Wild. You have the caves to explore, you have the wells to discover, there's so many other things to do, and then the depths, there's just... You don't have to spend the entire time doing Korok puzzles, so it doesn't feel like the Korok puzzles are as tedious. Besides the reasons mentioned already, there's just so many other things to do in between the Korok puzzles, so you're not doing 100 Korok puzzles in a row. So it makes it a lot less tedious than it was. Of course, some of the cons, it is still pretty tedious to do 100% in Tears of the Kingdom. If you're trying to rush it, it will probably be torture. Like I said before, took 2.5 months doing this, so I took it at a very slow pace, and that's what made it so much more enjoyable, because it was a relaxing time sink instead of like a dedicated completion job. So doing it very slowly is what made it worth it. If I tried to do it any faster, would not have worked. And then there's other repetitive things, like the fact that even though there's more bosses available in Tears of the Kingdom, they're still incredibly repetitive. Once you've fought a single Gleeok, you've fought them all. There's really very little variation between things to fight. There is very little challenge in doing this. It's just a relaxing time sink, really. So if you're trying to do it for the challenge of taking on everything, not going to be that enjoyable. So overall, I would say 100%ing Tears of the Kingdom is worth it if you want to take it slow and want a relaxing, leisurely time doing it. Otherwise, it would not be worth it to try and do this. That's basically my closing thoughts. I can't think of anything else to say about this, but also, since I've been recording so many takes of this, the Switch keeps dying on me, so... Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on 100%ing Tears of the Kingdom if you've done it, if this video has made you had any interest in trying it or put you off doing it. And if you watch the end, then comment Blossom Dance down below. So, see you next time!